You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today, we're about to get started with our first HouseCall of the weekend. So if you're a new listener, if you're just joining us, maybe for the first week or first time, what we do is we go through all of our community's questions. We answer all of your questions regarding wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging, and pretty much anything that you can think of in terms of health and really living a healthy lifestyle. So we get some great questions. People submit their questions each and every week. We do our best to keep up to the best of my ability. And we've been doing probably about 6, 7, or 8 questions each day now just to keep up. So in the essence of time, what I'm trying to do is keep each answer to about 2 minutes and then always give you a place to look for more information if needed. And so what I like to do is I'd like to get you started. I'd like to get you moving. And I think you're going to see that today. We've got a lot of very different questions, and they're fantastic, and they really are. And so I'm very happy that I'm able to be the one to sometimes give you the answer of what you've been looking for, or at least set you on the right path, maybe for the first time in your life. And I've had many people who are able to do that for me. And again, I'm happy to be that person as well for you. So let's get started with that first question. The first question is from Sue. She asks, hi, a few questions regarding cooking. I often cook with coconut oil as I hear cooking with olive oil isn't healthy. Please, can you confirm I'm doing the right thing? Also, I often heat food up I've cooked in the microwave. Can you let me know what dangers to this there are? Thank you for sharing. I love your show. All right, Sue, great questions. Let's start with the oil. So I think I answered this again in the podcast the same exact day, but I like to answer everyone's questions. So what I'm going to do is just give you the quick answer with this. Cooking with olive oil is actually okay at a low to medium heat. So if you're like my grandmother who is from the old country and she cooks a sauce and she cooks it over the course of like 12 hours. So what she's doing is a very low heat. She's also adding tomatoes, which have antioxidants, and the antioxidants help to prevent the oxidation of the oil, because that's what we're worried about. We're worried about these monounsaturated fats like olive oil or polyunsaturated fats, which are really dangerous to heat up. Those would be more like your vegetable-based oils, maybe more like certainly a canola oil or fish oils or anything like that. We certainly don't want to use those, and especially soy. We don't want to use soy oil either. But olive oil is in between. And so what we do is a very low heat or light heat. I don't prefer people to cook with olive oil unless it is in a sauce at a low heat and you're using antioxidants like garlic or lemon or tomatoes to prevent that breakdown and oxidation, or to break down from making these oils turn into essentially free radicals and to turn into trans fats and things like that they create more damage, more inflammation in your body, because you're trying to be healthy. You certainly don't want the foods that you're eating to make you unhealthy, which is why, I like to run food sensitivity tests. And the reason is the food sensitivity test that I run, that I offer people on our site, shows you that you can eat healthy foods, yet still be inflamed from those healthy foods, even though they're supposed to be anti-inflammatory. And that's simply because your body creates an immune reaction to these foods. And it's very eye-opening. And so that's why it's obviously one of our most popular tests that people run. So coconut oil. Yes, coconut oil has a higher smoke point. It's a saturated fat, which means when you're using it. So coconut oil, it's a little different with coconut oil. Here's the thing. With saturated fats, and coconut oil is a saturated fat, you have these long chain fatty acids and you have these medium chain and short chain. Well, coconut oil is actually a medium chain triglyceride or medium chain fat. That's about 64% or so of coconut oil. But it still contains those, they don't have the double bonds, the double carbon bonds. So when we start to get into the chemistry of it, what happens is these unsaturated fats, they have a weaker point in between their molecular structure. Meaning like when you heat them, they're able to be cleaved or broken down. And that's what's going to start to create some of those free radicals. But with a saturated fat, they don't have that double-double carbon bond, or the carbon-carbon double bond it's called. And I don't want to lose people here. So what that does is it allows it to be cooked longer and at a higher heat. But what I will say is this, is that all fats, even the butter and the coconut oil, and especially the coconut oil, they can be broken down eventually with high enough heat. So we do have to be careful with that. So just to answer your question, and I'm going to answer it more later in the show, so please do stay tuned for that one. You're just asking about, my stance on that. So yes, your answer is olive oil at a very low heat or medium heat, cooked with tomatoes or garlic or lemon, some antioxidant type food to prevent it from oxidizing as much. And don't cook it at that low heat. And then saturated fat, yes, you can absolutely cook with that. You'll get my answer of why I don't typically do that or recommend that a little later in the show for many, many reasons. So we'll answer that in a moment. Now, I'm not an advocate of cooking in a microwave. There are back and forth studies on it. It's been banned before in multiple countries for decades. Here's the thing. I've done all the research on cooking with microwave. It actually preserves some of the nutrients in food. It makes some of the nutrients more bioavailable. It decreases some of those nutrients as well. I can tell you that it destroys most of, if not all, the enzymes in the food, so all the living enzymes in that particular food. But we do that anyways, cooking above 118 degrees Fahrenheit for a long enough period of time. But what you don't hear about is you do get some low-level radiation, and you do have to contend with additional EMFs, and we don't know exactly how that does affect food yet. So it's more on like an energetic level and a radiation-based level. It's not a joke that they call it nuking your food, right? Because even though it's, nuclear sounds a little intense, you are using a form of radiation to actually heat up and cook your food. So it's moving the molecules in the food at a much faster rate, which then allows the food to cook faster. Now, there's a lot of debate as well. Since it cooks that fast, it tends to denature the protein to maybe a greater degree, making that protein not as easy to assimilate inside the body. And again, this is a topic that's up for debate. I want to show you both sides of it. Yes, you can still maintain a lot of those nutrients in microwaved food, but my recommendation is let's not microwave the food. Yes, it is faster. Faster doesn't always equal better. In Ayurvedic times especially, they saw the nutritional value to slow cooking. Now, of course, I know we can't all use a slow cooker, but a lower temperature for a longer period of time seems to keep a lot of that nutrition intact. And that's how I would prefer you to cook if possible. Okay. So we talked about the oxidation there, the free radical damage. There's this thing called advanced glycation end products called AGEs, and we just don't want that to build up in our food. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, Lindsey's up next. Her question is, hi, Stephen. Quick question, as I know you get lots of questions. You talk about ginger tea a lot, and I love ginger. Do you have any specific recipe for this tea? Thanks. So yes, I'm such a huge advocate of ginger, and I know that not everybody can tolerate it because of maybe some aggressive histamine-based issues or they have acid reflux. But, the truth is you need to correct the histamine issues like I have in the past and mastocytosis, which I am prone to. I can't go overboard on it for sure. But once that's corrected, ginger is one of those longevity-based herbs and spices. It's one of those great roots that we can use. Turmeric gets a lot more credit, but ginger is just as important and very, very potent in its own right for a natural anti-cancer, for kidney cleansing. Now, I talked about it yesterday on the Friday review of my favorite juice. My favorite juice is really right now, it's carrot, ginger, and lemon. It's just so powerful. And tune in yesterday if you didn't check that out on why I like that juice so much. So how do I use it? Very simple. You can get organic ginger tea packets. So you just keep them at your house, your office, wherever it is. I use ginger mainly in the wintertime. When it's very cold, it helps heat up the body, works with circulation. It's tremendous for detoxification. There are a lot of people, and I got this actually from Deepak Chopra, so I'll give Deepak credit, and it's an old Ayurvedic thing. And simply, all you do is you drink hot water with ginger all day long. And that actually helps to detoxify the body, to break up mucus. It's just absolutely fantastic. So you can use the dry ginger tea leaf packets. You can do juiced ginger, like literally just juiced ginger, and keep it in your fridge for about a day or two. And you can add that to hot water or just regular water if you'd like. And the other thing you can do is just get about a 1/2 inch to a 1 inch peeled piece of ginger, just peel the outside of it and just put it in a thermos jar, and you can just pour hot water over that all day long. You can slice it up, of course, but it will stay for the whole day, and you'll just get good, fresh ginger out of that. I like that. If I have fresh ginger, it's really fantastic. Actually, it's not as potent as you would think. It's not as potent as the dry powdered ginger tea leaves, and the reason is that you are not getting the concentrated dose right there. You're getting it, just breaking it down over the course of a day. If you want it stronger, just crush the ginger before you do put it into your tea water. So hopefully that helps. All right, Jess is up next. Hello, thank you for all you're doing in the world. Would you be able to talk about miso soup? Is it healthy and beneficial to our bodies? Thanks in advance. Okay. So here's the issue with miso soup is that it's just all over the board. You could actually get some pretty healthy miso soup. My wife will oftentimes make miso soup. I don't know how often, maybe like once a month. She really enjoys it. She likes it. We want a healthier version of it. So what is it? Well, you can get a soup stock, and the soup stock, you can make it yourself. But a lot of times, like a miso stock is actually it has some fish in there already. So it has a little bit of sardines, or it has a little bit of tuna. And then what it's mixed with is some type of sea vegetable. Usually it's kelp. And again, like kombu or kombu, a few different types of seaweed in there, which is just so tremendous for iodine. Really great, again, for adding a lot of those minerals to our bodies as well that we do need. And then we get really from those dark sea vegetables. Dark sea vegetables are one of those forgotten foods because we don't really like how they taste that are so absolutely fantastic for our health. One of the reasons why we see great health a lot of times in some of the island-based people is because they're eating those sea vegetables. It's not the only thing. They're eating an anti-inflammatory diet. They're more relaxed, more based on community and culture. I mean, there's a lot, right? But that's one of those things. And shiitake mushrooms or shiitake mushrooms are one of those things as well that's usually added to miso soup. Besides that, sometimes it's just some diced tofu. And if you're going to put tofu in, just make sure it should be organic, which means that it's not non-GMO, because 93% of all soy now is GMO, and you certainly don't want that. And if you can get sprouted organic, that's absolutely fantastic. Just don't go overboard with your tofu, and it can be absolutely fine. How often would you have miso soup? Maybe once a week at the most. I think that would be totally fine for you from a healthy source, of course. All right, Brooke is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. For about 1.5 years, my husband, who's 23 years old, has needed to wear a breathing strip 24/7. He has suffered from asthma since he was 5 years old. But this is a relatively new issue, resulting in him needing to breathe through his mouth and wear breathing strips out in public, which is very embarrassing for him. He recently visited an ENT. The ENT, which is an ear, nose, and throat doctor, said that he has a mildly deviated septum, but the main issue is inflamed blood vessels that partially blocked his nasal passages. He was prescribed steroid. Over the last 1.5 years, his diet has improved, but he is now more stressed in his daily life. He takes Advair twice daily for his asthma. It's only his prescription medication, and he wants to get off the Advair, doesn't necessarily know where to start, has to open up his breathing passages. Thanks so much, Dr. Cabral. I really enjoy your podcast. Thank you for your knowledge. So thank you, Brooke. This is a great question. I see that you are a registered nurse, so keep up the great work, teaching your patients as well about all this great functional medicine, natural health principles. So here's the thing, Brooke. Without a doubt, so many people have a deviated septum. I have a deviated septum. I couldn't breathe through my nose for quite a while, but it wasn't necessarily the deviated septum. It makes it a lot harder. I couldn't do a lot of the Ayurvedic therapies, which is, well, I won't get into those today, where you're basically taking like the string and moving it through each nostril. It's pretty bad. But mine was so inflamed, it was very difficult to do that. Here's the thing. It is an inflammatory-based issue, but I don't know the background. I don't know the back setting. I don't know if he came off. What happened a year and a half ago? What was the major stressor? Did he have antibiotics at the time? Did he get then, because of the antibiotics, a fungal-based infection in the nasal passages, which is flared up? Did he start following a high paleo diet a year and a half ago with a lot of, let's say, bacon or meat in his diet that could have caused inflammation as well? What is it exactly that's going on? My recommendation is this. I would absolutely cut out the gluten, and I would cut out the dairy, especially the dairy. I would remove yeast in the diet, so anything leavened as well. And what I would also do is, because keep in mind that he's on a product that is actually helping him in the short term but hurting him in the long term. So what's happening is every time he uses the Advair and those types of products, he's spiking or giving his adrenal glands a little kick. And that kick eventually starts to really wear out his long-term defenses. So a lot of times it's an issue with the diet. It is an issue with inflammatory-based foods. Yes, it's an issue with stress, some type of inflammation. Maybe it's heavy metals. It could be a lot of different exposures. But doing an adrenal hormone test will let you see, try not to do the Advair for the day, see what the adrenals are on their own, how much cortisol is he producing? Because if he's not producing a lot of cortisol on his own, especially only at 23 years old, what's happening is the body actually needs cortisol to start to act as an anti-inflammatory agent in and of itself. It's why I get asked all the time, like, why do my allergies worse at night? Why do I feel worse after like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock? It's because your own natural anti-inflammatory, as in cortisol, is starting to dip at that time. And when it dips, you don't get that natural benefit from that as well. And so what you need to do is really look deep. An organic acids test to see what's going on with the gut. An adrenal-based test to see what's going on with the adrenals. And maybe a hair tissue mineral analysis to see if he has any heavy metals built up. My first choices would be the organic acids test and the adrenal test. The hair tissue mineral analysis would last. In the short term, start using the neti pot, start using the GSE nasal spray that I've spoken about many times as well. You can just go on the website. You can see what I offer. And again, you can get it anywhere, but it's the StephenCabral.com/store. I recommend, if you can, you do it at the store, because then you get my personal recommendations and you get the nasal spray that I recommend to start killing some of that bacteria up there, and to start killing some of the fungus if that's what's growing as well. Now, the neti pot will help with a little bit of saline to deflame the nasal passages as well. So hopefully that answer helps. Anonymous is up next. Anonymous is asking, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thanks for everything you do. I have a rather embarrassing question, but don't know who else to turn to. My doctor says I'm fine, but I don't feel fine. I recently noticed gray stains on all my bra cups, and sometimes my nipples would get very itchy. I'm 25 years old and not pregnant. My grandmother on my mom's side had breast cancer. Thanks in advance for all your help." Okay, so this is not a question I've come across before. So I said, why don't I look into this a little bit more? So my first inclination is when I see this staining of the skin, I'm thinking, okay, literally this could be a heavy metal issue with a heavy metal discharge, just to a greater degree. So this can happen as we start to get warmer weather. The body starts to sweat a little bit. You're starting to see that come up. Okay, so that's one. You could do a hair tissue mineral analysis and you'll get to see for increased mercury, increased aluminum, lead, any of these things. You could be exposed to it, okay? Or you're detoxing, your body's getting it out. The second is there could be a change in diet. It's possible. Without a doubt, it is possible now. You're eating a food such as increased dairy, increased whatever, that is leading to increased secretions actually from the nipple, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. And the third is you could have gotten a new bra. And the bra itself, when you sweat, because again, we're sweating all day long, just at a very minor level. So when you do sweat, that new bra could actually be staining, and you could actually just be seeing that stain. Okay, that's a possibility. The next possibility to go to is, okay, are you using a new detergent? Are you using something else that is actually giving you some type of chemical-based sensitivity? And my last one, just inclination-wise, is, okay, is there a new environmental-based issue? Are you being exposed to something new in your environment that your body is then detoxing and removing? Okay, but there's a couple more now. So there's a couple other things that I did want to bring to your attention. And one of those things is this. So with some women on certain types of birth control, and again, that's why, see, when I'm not working with someone individually, it's just a little bit more challenging. But again, I'm giving you a place to start. So what's happening is this. When you're on birth control, and again, you might have switched birth controls, and sometimes this happens with antidepressants as well, or anti-anxiety-based medication, you actually do get nipple secretions. So that will the stimulation of your nipple against your bra can actually cause more discharge. And you're not going to feel that necessarily. But what happens then is that then may discolor or get exposed to then the actual fabric and color of the bra, and then that could actually then come onto your own skin, and that's what you're seeing. So those are a bunch of different things that can be happening. The last part, now none of this has cancer, so I kind of hopefully will put your mind at ease a little bit, but some people also with low thyroid can also tend to get elevated levels of prolactin, or they can start to have the same type of secretions as well from the nipples and breasts. So I want to give you a few things to look at, a few places to start. And hopefully with all those different possibilities that could be, maybe one of them rings a little clearer for you. All right, 2 more questions today on our house call. And the next one is from Yvonne. Yvonne is asking, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm a 28-year-old female. I always have whitish vaginal discharge without any pain or itchiness. But if I have sex with my partner, cheesy cottage white discharge is emitted, and my vagina will start feeling itchy and sex will feel very painful. If I do not have sex, I have another kind of vaginal discharge before and after my period. Is this normal? Okay, so Yvonne, I see this issue all the time, and I've spoken about this many times before actually on the Cabral concept. So what I'd like to do today is I would like you to go to stevencabral.com/435. And what I'll do is I will look back at my team and I, and we will find out which episodes spoke about bacterial vaginosis. So bacterial vaginosis is really what we're talking about here. And I'm actually, at the same time that I'm talking, I'm trying to find at least one of those episodes for you because, again, I've talked about this in depth. So I spoke about this. I spoke about bacterial dysbiosis. I'm going to spend just 5 more seconds seeing if I can find that. And then if not, I'm just going to link it up in the show notes. Okay, bacterial vaginosis, and it is on episode 58 was one of the first times. I'm going to have my team look it up. So I'm going to give you a quick understanding of it, and then I will have you, you can look at the additional ones. Okay, so bacterial vaginosis, what happens is this. We always talk about acid and alkaline. Well, the vaginal canal, so what's happening here is you're supposed to have a little bit more of an acid pH. And when it's more alkaline, like after sex, this is a perfect example. After sex, a woman's vagina gets more alkaline. When this happens, you allow for additional bacteria such as lactobacilli to overgrow. You will start to then see that discharge. Now, sometimes is it candida? Absolutely, but sometimes it's just bacterial overgrowth as well. And that's why it's different before and after you also get your period, because the pH again changes in the vaginal canal before and after your period, especially before we're getting a change in pH, a change in that level. One thing that does help, now this is just, again, very temporary, but after you do have sex, you want to try to urinate as quickly as possible. That little bit of acidity from the urine will help a little bit, and it does help with some women. But on my previous episodes, I talked about you can do vaginal suppositories. Boric acid is one of those things that does help tremendously for women. It kills fungus, it kills bacteria, but really what we're talking about is this. The vaginal flora shares the same flora as that of the intestines. We need to recalibrate. We need to change the bacterial balance in your gut. So my highest recommendation is you could do an organic acids test, or you could simply complete the Candida protocol. This will help with both rearranging, rechanging, getting a better function of good bacteria, and that will also help with vaginal-based bacteria as well. So we do all of that in the Candida-based protocol. We help to build it back up. But again, you can listen to those previous episodes for just what to do when you are getting that discharge, and I believe that will help tremendously. So really good question, and it's something that I actually see a lot, but a lot of women don't like to talk about. Okay, last question is from Haley. Haley's asking, why do you recommend not cooking with oils? I've read that baking, sauteing, etc. with coconut oil, supposedly because it has a higher temperature tolerance, is okay. I would love to know why you recommend cooking without oils. I think I heard you mention that in episode 357 when sharing your favorite healthy fries recipe. Let me know. Thanks so much for all you do. I can't stop listening to and sharing these podcasts. Haley, thank you for that. I really do appreciate each and every one of everyone's listens, and really even more so when you share it, because I love that we can share this message of natural health. And as I said before, that this isn't my message. I'm one messenger. I'm trying to get this out to as many people as possible because it's natural health, it's natural living, and really just giving people the idea that you don't need to turn to medication. Absolutely not. Unless this is an acute life-saving based condition, there's no real reason to use pharmaceutical drugs because they're only masking symptoms. So let's do it naturally, and let's do it from a healthy perspective. And then when you get yourself healthy, you pass on that information to others as well. So here's the issue. I spoke about this earlier in the podcast. Here's the thing. Oxidation. Oxidation is a big thing. When we create oxidation, we create free radicals. When we put that into our body then starts to age at a faster rate. It starts to get more prostaglandin, more series 2, so basically more of an inflammatory-based reaction. And that's why when people say, well, I take omega-3s to combat this, yes. And that's because omega-3s work, and the reason they work is because people are already inflamed. They have more of the inflammatory prostaglandins, and a lot of that comes from the omega-6s rather than the omega-3s, okay? But our goal is to just cut down on more of these omega-6s as well. So, yes, you are correct. Grass-fed butter, coconut oil, ghee, grapeseed oil. All of these things have a much higher smoke point. Should we be cooking in them? Yes or no? There are actually a couple different philosophies on this. So the philosophy says use a little bit of fat when cooking, and the reason is some vitamins are fat soluble, like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K, and that's absolutely correct. I don't disagree with that. What I recommend is let's use the fat after we cook so that there's no chance of oxidative damage. Plus, there's no need to cook your food in oil. Like, that's just not necessary. If you're sauteing, you can just use a little bit of water with your vegetables, and that will work great. If we're talking about frying up meat, I don't know if that's the best idea in the first place. Again, we can debate that. It's okay. But baking, broiling, you could even just rub the pan if you wanted to, like baking or broiling, instead of, dousing the food in the fat. Slow cooking, steaming, all of that can be done without oil. So is it okay to cook in some coconut oil, grass-fed butter, or ghee? Yes, it is. But then think of this, okay? Think of this. You're looking at the total fat content of your meal as well. I know we're keto crazed right now, but that does not mean that you should or can eat 100 grams of fat at a meal. Okay, and here's how easy it is. If you add 3 tablespoons, which is just a tiny amount, let's just say you add 3 tablespoons to the pan to coat it, okay? So 3 tablespoons of any fat is approximately 40 grams of fat, about 13 grams or so per tablespoon. All right, so if we want to do real math, that's 39, right? So about 40. We're going to use easy math here. That's 40. Now, let's say after your meal is done, you add a little bit of olive oil, you add a little bit of butter or whatever extra to it, which most people do, a lot of people do. And let's just say you add another, 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons. Well, you're at 53 or so, potentially up to 65 grams of fat. And that doesn't include any of the fat in your actual meal. So just by using simple math, which again, no one's really thinking about, there's just not a lot of people thinking about this, the fat in your meal could easily be another 10 to 20 grams, especially if you're eating meat or fish or any of these things. And again, good fat, I know, but 80 to 100 grams of fat at a meal. So right away, we're looking at 800 to 1,000 calories right there. And that does matter for a lot of people. I know we're not concentrating on calories. I agree. But that does matter. But it's also, you can't just put stuff in your body without thinking about how your body has to digest it. So you need a lot of lipase, the enzyme lipase, to break down fats. You also need stomach acid to then prime the pump, which is your liver and gallbladder, to actually produce enough bile to emulsify all of this fat. It's not that simple. And if you're using coconut oil and grass-fed butter and ghee, I agree, higher smoke point. Think about it. Your body still has to cleave those carbon bonds as well, right? Those hydrogen carbon bonds. Like, your body still has to do that. There's a digestive process that still has to take place. That consumes a good amount of energy as well. So all I'm asking for, I present both sides of the story. Hopefully that was unbiased. Good benefits of fat. Some benefits of cooking with fat, but also you get the same benefits by adding the fat after the food's already been cooked, and you can use it as a dressing. And then you can add a normal amount. 13 grams of fat with 1 tablespoon. 2 tablespoons equals 26 grams of fat. That's still a good amount of fat, right? And that's as a dressing. Let's just think about it from an overall healthy perspective, and that's the perspective that I try to bring. So hopefully that helps. And as always, thank you for tuning in to another Cabral House Call. I appreciate each and every one of your listens, and even more so, all of your shares. Thank you once again, and be sure to come back tomorrow where we answer another 7, 8, or 9 of your questions. Take care, everyone. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.